Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is HD Starcraft, and I'm back for the game finale, the series finale between Empire Koss and Western Wolves, SortOf. And Koss is going to be the red Terran player in the bottom right-hand corner of Star Station. His opponent is Western Wolves, SortOf, in the blue at the top right-hand corner. And this is going to be the finale between these two very evenly matched players. The winner goes on, of course, to the round of 8. In DreamHack. And as you guys all know, I've been casting the sets kind of out of order. Whatever games I feel like are good, I've been casting. There's a bunch of sets from this tournament that are just kind of one game sets because the rest of the replays were not saved for some reason. And I really want to cast a couple of these because I actually did one with TLO and Naniwa. There's a couple of other really big name ones that I want to go ahead and bring out for you guys. So do look forward for that in the next couple of days, sometime during this weekend. By the way, guys, I cannot believe it, but Star Trek, the new Star Trek is coming out. It actually comes out today, or as this video will be out, it should have come out last night. So very excited for those of you guys who love Star Trek as I do. I love the reboot by J.J. Abrams, and I'm going to be watching that in the movie theaters. So, anyways, don't download it legally. That's bad. We do have SortOf as the blue Zerg player bringing his Overlord over here to the 12 o'clock position on Star Station, just scouting out the Xel'Naga Tower. And because the Xel'Naga Tower does so much scouting for you. And Koss on the bottom right-hand corner has the barracks coming up and the refinery. Speaking of which, about games I want to go ahead and cast, I'm just going to go on a quick tangent again. If you guys have any good replays, feel free to send them in or their links to HDreplays@gmail.com. I do prefer to look at high-level replays, so if you guys have any replays from like really good players, feel free to send them in. I do want to go ahead and cast more exhibition games, and so yeah, that's that. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into this matchup. We do have a spawning pool coming down right now. Overlord going down to the south side. SortOf and Koss are tied up at 1-1 apiece, and everything rides on the shoulders of this game here and now. The map is Star Station, which is a big map. You know, even though they don't have cross spawn, I would expect to see a macro game here because of the way that Koss plays. He likes to play a macro game, and he likes to set up for the late one. Although last game SortOf really taking a very aggressive opening, a lot of Zerglings, Banelings, and Hydras, and he just kind of steamrolled Koss, which is not something like I said before. Koss is a player who you really have to look for the chinks in the armor to exploit. And last game, I was a little surprised that Koss went down so quickly to that attack. I don't think the same thing will happen again. This map, I think it's a much tighter map, easier to defend. Your natural and your third, and here comes a Reaper actually from Koss, just doing a little bit of damage. But yeah, I think on this map it's a little bit easier for Terran to kind of make a defense at the third, because I'll show you guys right here at the natural expansion. You can see you can wall this off. The planetary fortress or an orbital command can go here, and you can get all your troops right here, and it's very easy to defend the third and the natural. So yeah, it's a different map than Whirlwind. That's what I guess I'm trying to say. Much easier to defend your expansions with. So here comes Koss with a couple of Reapers, and we'll see what he can do with these. He's got 2 now. They are regenerating HP, of course, because they are outside of combat. They are now going to run in and engage the Queen for a couple of shots, but unlikely they'll be able to do much damage to the Queen, as it's a very sturdy unit, has a ton of HP really. And these Reapers, I don't think they're going to be able to get much damage done, not with the Zerglings and the Queens. And I love the position of this Overlord as well from SortOf, so he can see when those Reapers are coming in, and he's just kind of waiting, just saying, all right, once your Reapers come up here, I'll be waiting for them, I'll be ready. And look at that, he's got his Queen coming out at the main. He has lost a few drones here or there, just one actually, so nothing too serious. But now that the Queen has come out at the main base, both bases are going to be very well defended. I like how SortOf has actually opened up with double Queen here. Besides the Queens that you use for transfusing and injecting the hatcheries, he's brought 2 extra Queens out to deal with the Reaper threat, and also to help spread the creep tumors out very quickly. So I really like that, and this kind of build usually means the Zerg player is going to be setting up obviously for a pretty macro game as well, rather than going for early aggression. Koss has a macro command center coming up, and no surprise here, it's a great map for that. Bunker is coming as well with the supply depot. And here comes more forces from Koss. He's really committing to harassing the Zerg player here. this time reinforcing his Reapers with a couple of Hellions, but they still aren't going to be able to get past the Queens. Although I think what Koss might be trying to do here is just prevent the creep tumors from coming out into the middle of the map, and he's also going to be able to scout out this hatchery, which is always good. He gets a good indicator on as to when the Zerg expands, and he's going to feel good about that because he threw down his macro CC a lot earlier than the hatchery came. And of course now SortOf scouts this out and he sees, you've got a macro command center. Now we're about to see how his playstyle differentiates from the one he played on Akelon Waste. I think the mistake he made on that game was he didn't get the 4th quicker. This time around he's going to try to be aggressive and he gets a full surround off on all the Hellions. Wow, and that's one way to even out the odds a little bit. Get entire map control. And now the pressure is really on Koss because Koss knows that his macro CC has been scouted and he knows he just lost all of his Hellions. It's very possible that SortOf could go for a Baneling bust, and that's exactly what he's gonna do. And the thing here is Koss sees the Banelings, and I don't think Koss has anything here to hold this off. This is the risk when you go macro CC. You can lose straight up to an aggressive play like this, and SortOf is gonna bust through. He cannot get into the main base, so the supply depot was raised, but all of these SCVs are going to die, and there is nothing they can do. Whoa, why did that Baneling get blown up? Oh, the siege tank has come out, but even a siege tank will not be enough to save all these poor souls, and 14 SCVs have gone down already, and if these 3 SCVs think they can get away, then, you know, there's another thing coming to them. There is no happy ending for those space construction vehicles, and Koss now having to lift up his orbital command, a devastating blow. And that's the risk versus reward when you go macro command center. Now all of a sudden Koss is going to have to rely very heavily on his extra orbital command to get back into this game. Now he's not out of it by any means. He is behind, but the nice thing is he's got an extra orbital and he can mule an SCV very, very quickly. And I think that's what we're going to see him do. Now SortOf doesn't have all the pressure on his shoulders anymore. He actually doesn't need to grab a 4th super quickly any longer, but it would be nice, I think, for him to go for another expansion because the risk of a counterattack, I think at this point, is somewhat low, given that Koss is going to be rebuilding back at home. A starport is coming up right now, so we will probably be seeing Koss go for a couple of medevacs for dropping. And here comes a bit of a push from Empire Koss. Just looking, I think, to pop off the few overlords that are outside of his base and maybe pick off some creep tumors, but I very much doubt that Koss is going to be engaging into heavy warfare, trying to take out a hatchery or anything like that anytime soon. So very good play by SortOf, just an incredible engagement. 17 SCVs were killed. You can see the units lost actually SortOf losing more than Koss did in that fight, and that was a lot of Zerglings and Banelings to kill off 14 SCVs. So if you look at the supply right now, in fact, the Zerg is only ahead by a very insignificant amount, just about 10 supply or so. So maybe, perhaps, the Zerg didn't do as much damage as I thought. I mean, he did do damage, but he lost a lot of his army as well. And now, all of a sudden, you know, Koss has got the 3rd expansion down. You know, the Zerg right now sort of needs to think about getting that 4th hatchery. Now the pressure is once again back on his shoulders to get the 4th expansion and keep that 1 base advantage over Koss. Otherwise, he's going to risk losing the supply war like he did on Akelon Waste and like he did on Crossfire, or excuse me, on Whirlwind. So, yeah, he needs to get another expansion immediately. He is adding on the Hydralisk Den, no surprise there. It worked out great for him in the last 2 games. If he can get some Hydras out with speed and Banelings with speed, then these Marines are going to have a very, very hard time. Although this time, Koss is reinforcing his Marines with siege tanks rather than Widow Mines, and not really building early Marauders either. And I really like this because the siege tanks, when they're reinforcing these Marines, you know, the Hydras and Banelings they're very, very hard to get in range when you're dealing with a unit that has this much range, 12 range siege tanks. So I really like that Koss is incorporating siege tanks now into his army earlier on, and I think that this is going to really set him up quite nicely for the late game. And speaking of late game, we do have a hive coming up right now for the Zerg player. One medevac is going to be flying into the main base. An Overlord was there to spot it, so I don't think this is going to be able to do much at all. In fact, that Marine dropped right down to his death. It looks like the medevac kind of just flying, darting around back and forth, and is now going to go ahead and fly out of there. And still no fourth hatchery. No, excuse me. Fourth hatchery is on the way for SortOf, but this is a very, very late expansion. And you can see what happens. I think this is just a mistake by SortOf not taking an earlier expo. You know, he's sitting back, and Koss doesn't attack in the mid game when he's playing like this. You can see he's just sitting back and turtling. And when a Terran player is doing that, the Zerg has to be expanding. The Zerg cannot just get complacent. The Zerg cannot be building armor units when he should be expanding and taking a drone advantage. So I really think that this is a mistake by SortOf, and now he's basically allowed Koss to get right back into this game. And now we can see these two medevacs are coming around to the top side. But once again, I will say one thing that's good for SortOf. He is really good at sniffing out these medevacs. Somehow, it's almost like psychic. But he knows when these medevacs are coming in, and he's always got troops ready to go to intercept the incoming drops. So that is, once again, a very nice job by him. But it looks like Koss now says, all right, forget going in through the medevacs. I might just go through the ground, and he has got a lot of Marines here. He could wait for 2-2, or he could push and take out this hatchery. And I don't think there are enough forces here to stop 16 Marines. And in the meantime, it looks like we have another attack coming on the right-hand side of the map as well. The Banelings, will they connect? One of them does. So these Marines are heavily weakened. Reinforcements could come to save this hatchery in time. In fact, most of the Zerg force is coming, but at the last second, it looks like SortOf realizing, hey, there's another attack coming from the right-hand side. I need to split my forces. This hatchery is saved as the Zerglings end up picking off the forces, but it looks like Koss has now set up a position right below the main base, and this is one of the most dangerous things on Star Station. When a Terran can set up siege tanks here, they can take out the hatchery here, and they can drop into the main base as well. And you can see now Marines have just moved into the main and are taking out critical structures, and it looks like the drones are just gonna have to try to fight for themselves. It's never a good position. And now the Zerglings coming in, they will be able to push the Marines away, but damage was done. I'm not quite sure what structure was lost there. Not the Ultra Cavern, but it might have been the Spire. I'm not entirely sure. Although, I'm not sure if SortOf even built the Spire. He hasn't built one so far at all. But meanwhile, we do have an attack coming, a counter-attack by SortOf, coming in with Zerglings, Hydras, and just engaging from all different angles. And at the same time, Koss also dropping into the main base as well. Absolute craziness going on in this game, as there's just action all over the map. It looks like Koss has finally cleaned up what Zerg forces remain on his side. Meanwhile, SortOf trying to get rid of all these Marines, which have fallen back into the nook here, where the siege tanks are covering them from the low ground, and SortOf cannot engage that position. Basically, Koss has set up a forward attack position right in the Zerg main base, and basically right now this entire half of the main is uninhabitable for Zerg. It's basically like there's a psi emitter here. Anytime the Zerg forces get close, they just get knocked into oblivion, blown to shreds, and SortOf needs to think of a way to kill off these siege tanks. And I'm so surprised, you know, why doesn't he come with an attack on the backside and finish off these tanks? And that's exactly what he's gonna do. Now pincering in from both angles, and these tanks are gonna get killed off. Very nicely done right there by SortOf. And he cleans up the tanks, but it looks like there might be just enough Marines to hold here. I cannot believe that Koss was able to keep his Marines alive, but he has to fall back now as there are more Banelings and Zerglings coming. Very, very close game right now. Units lost right now, 9k to 11k. The resources in terms of surplus are favoring Empire Koss just slightly. But this game is as close as can be. 18 minutes in here, and it's just been an absolutely enjoyable game. And here comes SortOf thinking about making a counter push. He did a lot of damage with that attack early on. He ended up killing 43 SCVs. So a very nice job right there from SortOf, and now he's coming in with his Ultra Baneling Zergling Hydra Infestor army. The Swarm is here, and will Koss be able to hold on? He doesn't have a planetary fortress here, but his Marines have just been so good. They just somehow stay alive no matter the odds, no matter the cost, but this might be a little bit too much for them to overcome. We'll see. There are a few medevacs here healing them. That Ultra, will it get taken out? It will. Koss continuing to micro back, and Koss holds! Koss holds! He's got tons of siege tanks on the high ground, so these Queens and Hydras will not be able to take out this orbital command. These siege tanks could not have come out at a better time, and what a position for them as well, right up here on the cliff, able to protect without being attacked. Beautiful defense by Koss right there. and really the outcome of the game kind of weighing on that attack because SortOf committed so much. And look at how he spread the creep here, basically to the front door of the 3rd expansion. The Zerg right now is on 4 bases, the Terran is on 3 bases, and we do, I mean, it's like we are going to be seeing a lot of action here for the next few minutes. Kos here has got to clear out these creep tumors, and it looks like he's popped off a couple already. He needs to think about getting into his medevacs once again, mobilizing to the skies, and dropping into the main base, and taking out a couple of these key Zerg structures. But right now, I think he's so concerned about protecting his base that he's not thinking about being offensive, which can be a mistake. He's also bringing this command center over here to the left-hand side, looking to go for another expansion, but it looks like SortOf is coming in for yet another attack. A lot of queens here, but I don't think that Kos is in trouble here. I think SortOf kind of going in with less than he should have, and one Ultra is actually stuck on the low ground. SortOf just didn't have enough Banelings or Ultras there, and I don't know what in the world possessed SortOf to make an attack there when his army was majority made up of queens. I mean, he had like 12 queens, 3 ultras, and a few infestors, and he decided to attack. I have no idea why he would attack in that spot, and that ended up costing him pretty dearly. All of a sudden swinging the game back in favor of to the Terran player. We do have another drop coming up to the top left-hand side. Kos igniting the afterburners and is going to go in for a drop, and it's actually going to be able to intercept a drone before it becomes a hatchery. Oh, not quite. SortOf is going to get that hatchery down, but it doesn't matter as there are forces here and they can stem up and take it down unless SortOf is able to pick off these forces with his Zerglings, which I do believe are crack upgraded. Yes, they are, but the hatchery goes down. Marauder firepower is too strong for you. And here comes SortOf coming into this expansion. Gonna try to take out the planetary fortress. A couple of SCVs more going down. 52 SCVs have dropped so far in this game. Kos gonna lose this expansion, and SortOf with a brilliant snipe of the command center, going eye for an eye. You kill a hatchery of mine, I kill a command center of yours. Very nicely done right there from SortOf, and exactly what he needs to do to slowly climb himself back into this game. And he really needs to be careful about engaging. Last time he fought, he did not have enough forces really to take out Kos. He went in with more queens than he had ultras. It just didn't make any sense. This time around, it would be wise for him to wait until he's maxed out and you know, utilize everything he's got to break the Terran player, because both armies right now are very large. Upgrades are very big as well. I will say that Kos is a bit behind. He needs to get 3-3 for his infantry and his mech. Actually, just his infantry. His mech is just at +1. But yeah, very close game right now. 198 supply to 199. Both players are maxed out once again. We have the signature single swarm host coming out like we saw in Akilon Waste at the end of the game. Just for fun, I guess. And SortOf now going in with a bit of a potential attack here. He's got a cracklings going right into this base, and these SCVs are in a lot of trouble. Great engagement right there from SortOf. And Kos not paying attention, not leaving a couple of forces at home. Although, yeah, he does have forces at home, but he was not, you know, in position to protect his SCVs. And now the SCV, you know, count has gone up to a very, very large amount of killed SCVs. 75 SCVs have gone down already. He's only got 35 left. Kos is thinking about pulling the same maneuver off that he did at the main base, this time on the other side of the map, but is this the right decision? Oh my god! His troops are all in transit inside the medevacs, and his entire army is going to get obliterated here, I think. Half of them at least going down when they were down here, and the other half making up to the top, but only to be fighting underneath the blinding cloud. Now, I really think that all SortOf has to do is send his entire army up the ramp, and clean up the remains of the Terran forces, and this game is SortOf's to take. Kos cannot hold this. Too many ultras, and SortOf with a really good game plan there, executing the pincer while the forces were getting set up still. And that is one of the greatest fears when playing Terran and siege tanks, I feel like. And of course with Widowmines now, is when you're trying to set up your position, you're trying to organize everything and get your siege tanks at the right spot and siege up. All of a sudden the Zerg army comes in and it's like, oh no, I was still setting up, or I was still getting my forces inside the medevacs. And that was just really, I think, bad timing for Kos. And a great ambush by SortOf. And now the game is like really, really in favor of the Zerg player. 200 supply to 107. And unfortunately, unlike the previous games, Kos has no supply, no surplus, I mean, to back up and rebuild his army. That's the thing too, when you go heavier mech, you're not likely to have much of a mineral surplus or a gas surplus. So Now, SortOf, I think, will be able to take off this planetary fortress, and really the game is his to lose. Really incredible play by both these players, an extremely close set. Here comes Koss with the last-ditch attempt, trying to come into the main base, but there are Ultras and Hydras waiting. The planetary fortress that was coming at the 6 o'clock position forced to be canceled. All the SCVs and mules going down once again, and the medevacs have to flee. They cannot engage these Ultras. The hatchery up here is safe and sound. And yeah, Koss has to GG. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. SortOf is your victor in this best of 3. All 3 games really, really good, especially the first one and this last one. Just back and forth action. And I hope you guys enjoyed. This was an incredible set. Go watch Star Trek in the movie theaters, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next cast. This is HD, signing out.